Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comments, let me know your thoughts on the story. Notorious Glasgow gangster Mick Healy, commonly known as Mick Healy, was the figurehead that assembled a 6-man gang, that being Michael Carroll, Ian MacDonald, James Healy, Thomas Carrigan, Robert Harper, and they brazenly attempted to rob £6 million from a NatWest bank in Torquay, the Strand, back in 1991. In the raid, the gang had hidden in the bank 2 days prior to the heist, and then ambushed 15 to 16 staff members when they first began their shift. They were bound and forced to lay down on the ground, sawn off pointed at their shaken and frightened frames. Ultimately, the gang left with little to nothing, due to not being able to get the key to the safe, and decided to flee the scene before ultimately being caught and then jailed. Now, as well as being a bank robber, Mick was regarded in high esteem in the criminal underworld, despite being dubbed by police and the press and judges as Britain's most dangerous man and gangster. Now, Mick Healy was an anomaly in the fact that he was loyal. As notorious gangster Paul Ferris says, Mick was a real man of his word to the very end. Now, Ian Blink MacDonald also called Mick a loyal friend and a smart guy. Now, Mick Healy famously represented himself when he went on trial for the NatWest heist. He famously told the gallery he had become involved in the heist due to being under pressure after being given an offer he could not refuse. He also told the court that he initially thought that his job was just to enter through the back door and then take a few £100,000. When the well-known gang were being ushered to and from the court, police helicopters shadowed the van's movement due to Mick Healy's history of escaping. Now, police officers also watched from the gallery. During the trial, it was also alleged that promises were made to K.I.L.L, the judge, and also the barristers. Ultimately, Mick was jailed for 19 years. Now, Mick Healy, who was originally from Shettleston, was so smart in fact that he fled Shotts prison by escaping in a butcher van after being jailed in 1987 to 10 years for raiding a Glasgow post office. Now, Mick Healy was not long into his 10-year sentence at H&P Shotts, which was deemed to be Scotland's most secure prison. During his time, he actually helped young offenders stay away from other non-criminals who had taken a fancy to younger guys. In one instance, Mark Healy actually armed himself with a machete that he took from the kitchen where he worked, and he told a criminal called Lombard to actually store the weapon. And in response, Mick Healy was said to have protected Lombard from criminal Jerry Ray, who, as I said, liked younger men. Now, as I said, Mick Healy was not long into his 10-year sentence at H&P Shotts. Now, there was a fence perimeter outside the main fence, and Mick says to have watched the refrigerated butcher van come and go religiously back and forth from the prison. Now, one day, Mick joked with an unnamed criminal if he thought that he could get into the van and hide and escape. The unnamed criminal replied, of course. Now, a few weeks later, Mick had entered the van while prison officers were not looking, and then laid down on the bed of the van and placed boxes on top of himself. The van opened and the boxes were counted before the words "all clear" was shouted. Ironically, the van had then driven from H&P Shotts to H&P Barlinnie. Thankfully, the third stop was the town centre. Now, shivering from being stuck in a refrigerated unit, Mick then bolted out the back door. He caught the van driver by surprise and the two locked eyes before Mick joked with the van driver that "I'm a wanted man, I'm probably the most wanted man in the country," and then he made a run for it, eyes wide, feet moving, one in front of the other. Now, Mick's friends had then set up Mick Healy with a flat in Rutherglen. It was safe to say that Mick Healy had no fear. Stay safe, safe.